For March 25th. And we've been following the Roswell Presbyterian Church sermon series, looking for resurrection. And this week, it's no surprise that Pastor Jeff Myers talked about fear and faith versus fear. And one of the things he mentioned is that our amygdala, that little portion of our brain that activates the fight or flight response, is not intended to rule our lives when we act in faith. He used the example of the guy who stood silent while Jesus was being handed over, and then a couple of days later, all of a sudden was so generous, he was going to offer his tomb as the burial place. And so essentially, he was not operating out of faith. He was all over the place, from fear to generosity, and that's what we want to try and avoid. I have an example which I think you can relate to. It's an example of kind of our giant collective slow motion amygdala hijack that has happened in the last couple of weeks, and it's about toilet paper. So our fight or flight response was to run out and get a bunch, tons, hoard. And I suggest that nobody ever asks themselves the question, how much toilet paper do I use in a week? How much do I really need? So that would have been a way to slow down and respond rather than react. Our mats, being on our mats, gives us the chance to notice, be a witness, and respond rather than react. There's another pastor whose sermon I watched who likened it to a sponge. So what happens is that when we get pressed and stressed, whatever's on the inside gets squeezed out. Or another way of saying it is, what's in the dark will come out in the light when we're stressed. So we're going to get on our mat and we're going to do some things that kind of squeeze and stretch us and maybe hold some poses for longer than you normally would so that we can be that witness and respond rather than react. So here we go. Okay, today we're going to start seated. And I want to remind you that much of this can be done in a chair or using the chair as a prop. And so you just want to make the shapes that we're making. So this beginning part can all be done seated in a chair and much of the rest of the practice. You might want to have a yoga block or two or a couple of hardback books taped together. They make nice yoga blocks. And then a yoga strap or a necktie. That works great. So I'm going to sit up on this block. It helps my hips drop down a little bit. I can get my knees below my hips. And that way it'll be easier to move my spine. So if you're comfortable closing your eyes, close your eyes and just listen. You want to start to just notice your inhale and your exhale. Maybe lean into the back side of the body a bit. Keeping your mouth closed. So paying attention to our breath not only has great mind benefits, but it also can literally strengthen our body. So we're going to begin with a very simple breath control practice. It's got 3 parts. We're going to do all 3 parts for the same amount of time. So we're going to use about 5 seconds for each part. You're going to inhale for 5 seconds, hold your breath lightly at the top for 5 seconds, and then exhale for 5 seconds. So I'll give you a little count here. So exhale everything out. And inhale for 5. Suspend lightly for 5. And exhale for 5. Just breathe normally. You shouldn't have any anxiety or dizziness. So let's try that again. We're going to do it several times. Inhaling for 5. Hold for 5. and exhale for 5. Take one normal breath. Then inhale for 5. Hold for 5. And exhale for 5. Let's go again right away. Inhale for 5. Hold for 5. And exhale for 5. One more. Inhale for 5. Hold. And exhale. When you finish, just keep your eyes closed. Come back to normal breathing and observe your breath and your body. And then as we move and stretch and challenge ourselves, perhaps there's someone you'd like to dedicate this time to who's also being stretched or squeezed in some way in this time. And then gently float your eyes open, and we're going to start to warm our spine. So just gently moving, twisting from side to side, keeping the spine really long. Inhaling and exhaling, coming through center, and then inhaling to the other side. And exhaling, coming through center. Let's do that again. Inhaling, twist. And exhaling, inhaling, twist. And exhaling. And then we're going to lift our chest, tilt the pelvis forward. Inhaling, gently arch, draw your elbows back. And exhaling, hollow out from the base of the spine, pull your mid-back back and let your elbows come forward. Maybe your head drops. So just keep doing that, inhaling, elbows back. And exhaling, rounding. Inhaling, arch. And exhaling, round. Good. One more time. Inhaling, arch. And exhaling, round. Nice, and then come on back to neutral. And we're going to rest one hand on the mat, inhaling, get really, really long. And then exhale, folding over. So maybe taking that hand out a little bit to give you some space. Root the opposite hip down. Just take a couple of breaths here. Inhaling, come on back up. Exhaling, center yourself and get ready to go to the other side. Inhaling, arm up. And exhaling over. Just noticing where you feel stretched or compressed or stressed. Inhaling, come on back up. Nice. And then go ahead and plant your feet right in front of you. You can stay on your block or you could come off it. And you're going to bring your knees in close, hug yourself as close as you can. And on an exhale, hollow out, fold yourself into a little tiny ball. Take a breath here. And then on an inhale, go ahead and hold your shins, lift your chest, and get really, really long. And exhaling, gently release. Good. So we're going to just kind of deepen our practice, moving through some sun salutations, and making the poses a little bit more complex as we go. So on an inhale, let's do another cat-cow arching. And exhaling, hollowing out. And then come on back to neutral. And walk your hands about one hand length forward of your shoulders. On your next inhale, bring your shoulders back over your wrists, and we're in kind of a modified plank pose, right? Push up. And you're going to exhale. Bring yourself down to the mat. Try and keep your hips up till last. It's a practice. It'll take time. Float your knees down. Push the tops of the feet into the mat. Inhaling, gently cobra. So pretty small to begin with. And exhale, forehead back to the mat. So we're going to reverse that push-up. Squeeze your elbows in. Use your legs. Pull your belly in. Come on back up to that modified plank.
and exhale, back to child's pose. So hips go towards the knees. Hips go towards the heels. And let's take one hand underneath for just a gentle spinal twist. Feeling some pressure in that shoulder. Maybe you can get your head resting on the mat. Dropping both shoulders down, getting heavy. And then bring your top hand by your nose so that you can push up, and then take a nice deep twist up toward the sky. And exhale. Come on back to neutral. So we're going to do that again. So walk your hands forward so you can bring your shoulders over your hips and get long. And exhale. Chaturanga push up. Rest your hips on the mat. Push your feet into the mat. Use your legs. Inhaling. Small cobra back bend. Exhaling, forehead to the mat. Squeeze your elbows in. Lift your hips. And come on back to child's pose again. So remember, there shouldn't be any pain in the practice, right? So stretching and squeezing is good. Pain, sharp pain is not good. So then take the other arm. Stretch it underneath. Drop your body weight into your shoulders. And take a breath. And then inhale, come on back to all fours. So we're going to come to a low lunge. If you're in a chair, you could put your foot on a block, or you could use the chair by bringing the floor to you. Right? So you don't have to get down on the floor. So knee right over the ankle. Try and drop your hips low and forward and bring your shoulders back over your hips. And then inhale. Take your arms out to the side, up towards the ceiling. And then exhale, squeeze your shoulder blades together and draw your elbows back. And then inhale, lift your fingertips up again, and exhale, bring your hands to your heart center. We're going to take a twist, so you might want to rest one hand on your hip and use your forearm. You might want to go a little deeper. Bringing your palms together, elbow outside the knee. Inhaling, make the spine long, keep the head in line. Exhaling, see if you can deepen a little more. One more breath. Use your feet as your foundation. And then inhaling. Release the fingertips back to the sky. Exhaling. Hands back to the mat. A couple more of those mini salutations. So shoulders over the wrists. One long line. See how far my knees are behind my hips. Exhaling. Chaturanga push up. Push those tops of the feet into the mat. Inhaling. Gentle cobra. Exhaling. So modify as you need. Squeeze the elbows in. Come on back up. And take a child's pose for one breath. Inhale deeply. And exhale out. And then we'll do that low lunge on the other side. So transitioning gently. Right knee over the ankle. Drop your hips. Take your arms to the sky. And then draw your elbows way back and see if you can make that spine even longer. Both sides of the curve, the front and the back. And again, just noticing where you're pressed and stretched. Good. And exhale, bring your hands to your heart. And then we'll take that twist on the other side. So use your inner thigh, pulling it toward the midline of the body. Get tall, and then deepen your twist. One more breath. Take your arms back up to the sky. And exhaling, hands to the mat. One more of those little mini flows, chaturanga push-ups. Shoulders over the wrist, exhaling. Chin to the chest. Push the feet into the mat, inhaling. Maybe as you get warm, you want to go a little deeper in your cobra. Exhaling, forehead to the mat. Squeeze the elbows in. Inhaling, come back onto all fours. And if your hands are still forward of your, okay. If your knees are still behind your hips, you're in a good place for a downward dog. So you can come to the top of a push-up plank. Shouldn't have to move your hands or your feet. And then lift your hips up and back for that upside down V shape. Pull your low belly in. Drop your heels. Squeeze your upper arms towards your ears. Fingers spread wide. Take a breath. Take another breath. Then on your next inhale, look at your thumbs. Exhale, bend your knees and walk your feet in to meet your hands, coming to a forward fold. So again, helpful to have the block. Inhale, come halfway up, fingertips under the shins. So you look like an upside down L. Exhaling, fold forward, check in with your feet. They should be about 2 fist widths apart. Nice and parallel on the outer edges. And then inhaling, you're going to try and come up with a flat back so the knees can be a little bit soft. Extend the spine and take your fingertips up towards the ceiling. And exhale your hands to your heart. Nice. So we're going to take a one-legged balance with a twist. We're going to start just in Tadasana, mountain pose. Feel that firm foundation in the feet, drawing the heel and the ball of the foot together. Rotate your thigh bones inward slightly. And try and keep that foundation as you shift your weight into one leg. So use your focal point to help. Just gazing at one thing that's not moving. So not me. Find something behind me or something on the floor about 8 feet in front of you. So you might want to stay here, or we might want to challenge ourselves a little bit more. Grab hold of that shin and draw the knee up. You might want to challenge yourself a little more by twisting toward that leg. And then shifting the gaze, which is super challenging. I'm going to lose it. That's why it's a practice. All right. So do the same thing on the other side. Lifting your knee. You might want to stay here. Drawing the knee up if you like. So just observing, right? Rather than reacting. Maybe you want to twist. One side might be different than the other. Maybe you want to change your gaze. Just keep breathing. Breathe. Oh, and there I go. Exhaling, gently release. It happens. All right. Come back to the front of your mat. And we're going to do sun salutation with a warrior two. So on an inhale, take your arms to the sky. And exhale, diving forward. Inhaling, come halfway up, that upside down L. Exhaling, bend the knee, and take your left leg way back in high lunge. Knee still over the ankle, right? And you're going to turn the heel down and inward. So in this pose, our heel and our arch are in line. So if we drew a line down the mat, the heel would intersect the arch. And then on an inhale, bring yourself back up, shoulders over the hips. All right, so the goal would be eventually maybe to get that front thigh parallel to the mat. Again, noticing where you feel the stretch. So always knowing you can take a break if you need. Go back to child's pose. Let's see if we can stretch ourselves a little more. Turn that front palm facing up. Back hand rests on the thigh. And draw a line at the ceiling. Getting long. look down at your back ankle. One more breath. And on an exhale, windmill yourself back to the mat, so adjust that front foot out to the side of the mat for stability. And then we're going to come to your version of push-up, right? So it could either be on the toes or the knees. Pull that low belly in. Reach the tailbone toward the heels. Take a breath here. Notice your reaction to the stress of your body. Respond rather than react. And then float the knees down, and we're going to come back to child's pose. And take a breath. On your next inhale, bring your shoulders back over your wrists. Shouldn't have to move your hands or your feet, right? Curl your toes under and exhale back to down dog. One breath here. Inhaling, look at your thumbs. Exhaling, bend your knees and walk your feet in to meet your hands. Hang like a rag doll for that exhale. Inhale, come halfway up. Exhaling, fold. Inhaling, arms to the sky. And exhaling, hands to your heart. We'll do that same thing on the other side. I'm just going to turn around so I don't have my back to you. Here we go. Inhaling, arms up. And exhaling, fold. Inhale. Halfway up, exhaling, bend the knees. Take the right leg way back in high lunge. And then we're setting up for warrior two, so heel to arch alignment. And shoulders over the hips. See if you can get nice and deep. Belly pulling in, tailbone dropping down. If you push into the outer edge of your right foot, that'll help protect your knee. And then float the backhand down and get longer. One more breath. And then we're going to windmill ourselves back to the mat. So move your foot out to the side if it's helpful. And then come on back to the top of the push-up plank. Just gazing at the front edge of your mat. Fingers spread wide. Tailbone reaching toward the heels. And then float the knees down and take a child's pose. So I am all about home practice. More important to get on your mat each day for a little bit. Inhaling, come on up to all fours, curl your toes under. Exhaling, come on back to down dog. So we've been at this for about 20 minutes. That's a great time to schedule for your own home practice every day. But we're going to keep going. Get into some more challenging poses. Inhaling, look at your hands, bend your knees, walk your feet in to meet your hands. Come halfway up on your next inhale, exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling, arms to the sky. And exhaling, hands to your heart. So before we go forward, I want to show you another alignment thing with the feet, and I'm just going to use my necktie as kind of a guide. So in Warrior 2, we were right on the tie, heel to arch alignment. In Warrior 1 and revolved triangle, you want to have some space between your heels. So it's going to give you a wider base, right? So that's kind of what you want to be thinking of when we get into these next couple of poses, right? So little space between your heels. All right, so come on back to the front of your mat. Inhaling, arms to the sky. Exhaling, diving forward. Inhale, halfway up. Exhaling, bend your knees, plant your hands. Take your left foot back, but not quite as far as a warrior two. And then again, make sure you've got that line, like we had that necktie down the center. Back toes are pointing diagonally forward. You're keeping your hips facing the short edge of your mat. Bring one hand to your thigh, the other hand to your hip, and coming up with a flat back for warrior one. So keep pulling that left hip forward and the right hip back. And then take your arms up to the sky. So if you want to widen your stance, you can. Left shoulder forward, right shoulder back. And then exhale your hands to your heart. Make the spine really, really long as you fold forward. And we're going to twist toward this front leg. So pull the belly in. If you need to lift your back heel, that's okay, right? Either one. So just use the tension. Feel the squeezing. One more breath. When you can do more than you think you can. And then release. Arms back up. And then exhale, interlace your hands behind you if you can. Lift your chest. Take your knuckles away from your hips. And we'll get a nice shoulder stretch. So shoulder comes toward the inside of the knee. Allow your head to hang if you can and take your knuckles to the sky. One more deep inhale and exhale. And gently release, hands to the mat. Scoot that back foot back, come to the top of a push-up. So this time we'll exhale chaturanga, again, either on the knees or the toes. Inhaling, come halfway up to modified up dog or maybe full up dog. And then exhale, back to downward facing dog. Good. So this time you're going to take your left leg to the sky. And as you exhale, pull your knee toward your nose. We're going to plant that foot and come to half forward fold here. So all the way up to that upside down L. Gently folding. Inhale, arms to the sky. And exhale, hands to the heart. And we'll go to the other side right away. So inhaling up. And exhaling, dive. Inhale, get long, halfway up. Exhaling, bend the knees, right leg back, but again, not quite as far as a warrior two. And some space between your heels. Make sure you're nice and stable. Bring one hand to the thigh, other hand to the hip. All right, so our hip points, pointing to the front edge of the mat. And then take your arms to the sky, pull that left shoulder back, right shoulder forward, maybe go a little deeper if you want. Lift that back heel if you need. And then exhaling, hands to the heart, get long, so you can take your elbow outside that front knee. And settle in. One more deep inhale. And then exhaling, releasing your hands to the mat, lifting that back heel, scooting the foot back if you need, and coming to the top of your push-up. So however you need to come down to the mat, right? Knees or toes. Exhaling, chaturanga. Inhaling, up dog or cobra. Just remember you're getting all the benefits of the pose no matter how deep you go. And then exhale, down dog. And then lift that right leg to the sky, finishing the flow, pull it in, plant your hand. You can always float your knees down. And inhale, halfway up. Exhaling, fold. Inhaling, arms to the sky. And exhaling, your hands to your heart. Okay, so we'll try another one-legged balance with a twist. If your hamstrings are tight, you might want to use a necktie. You could wrap it around your foot, right? Otherwise, we're going to try and find our big toe. So on an inhale, lift that one knee. You might want to go a little deeper. So find your drishti, that one thing to focus on. So holding the big toe with the opposite hand, maybe you want to stay here. Maybe you want to start to stretch the heel forward. Okay. You keep going, right? Try again. Maybe you go deeper in the twist. Maybe you move your gaze. And exhaling, gently release. I have a theory about my balance. I have recently gone to monovision contact lenses, and I think it might be challenging me. We'll try the other side. Or maybe I'm just making excuses. No judgment. Just only go as deep as is safe for you. And come on out. I think I'll practice that one some more. Okay, come on back to the front of your mat. So we're going to take actually, I'm going to turn so you can see me. We're going to take a stance a little bit wider than hip width apart. And you're going to bring your hands to your hips. Fold forward with a flat back. So you could always grab hold of the block if you need. Has different levels, right? Or you can use the floor. On an inhale, take your right arm to the sky. Try and keep your hips in place. Don't let them slide over. Or pull that opposite hip back. Make the spine long. Use the traction on the floor. Notice where you're being stressed and stretched. And then exhale, gently release. Bend your left knee deeply and put most of your body weight on the right leg. Try and keep it straight. And take your chest toward that knee. Feel a nice big stretch in the outside of the leg, the IT band. And then inhaling, come on back through center. Plant that right hand either on the block or book or the floor, and then inhale, left arm up. Pull the belly in. Keep the hips level. This is great for our internal organs. And exhaling, gently release. Bend that right knee deeply and take yourself around to the left leg. Just a couple of breaths. Inhaling, come on back to center. Soften the knees, rest your hands on your thighs, and come on up to standing. Nice. Okay, so actually, we're going to turn sideways now. And so your stance is going to be about the same distance. You're going to turn your right toes all the way around and then bring your left toes about halfway so that you can get your hips facing the short edge of your mat again. Probably going to want to have a block or your book. Get long and exhale, fold forward with a flat back. So I'm going to drop mine down. So the goal is to keep the spine straight, keep the right hip pulling back, the left hip pulling forward, and now twist. So a super challenging pose. Check in, make sure you've got some space between your heels. It's a stretch and a balance and a twist. Keep breathing. continue to challenge yourself. Use your breath. And exhaling, gently release. So to come out of it, we're going to bend that front knee. Bring your hand to your thigh. Maybe even hold on to the block. You can bring it with you to the other side. Come on up to standing. And turn those toes forward and take a breath. And we'll go to the other side. So check in and make sure you adjust your heels. Toes rotate around. Spine gets long, and then fold forward with a flat back. Perhaps a good time to come back to that dedication you set. So block right under the shoulder, pull that left hip back, and then from the waist, twisting the other direction. So try not to put too much weight into your block. Stay light. Use your legs. We just keep getting longer. And then exhaling, softening the front leg. Pull the low belly in. And come on back up. Gently release. Nice. Beautiful. Okay, so let's stretch the shoulders a little bit. So grab hold of your tie or your strap. You're going to take most of the tie hanging down in the right hand. So this starts out as a tricep stretch. Just drawing that elbow back. Keep the bottom ribs kind of tucked in. I'll turn sideways so you can see. And then you're going to take the opposite arm down around and grab hold of the tie. So many of you might be able to interlace your fingertips behind you. You can see I'm not there. It's just a journey. So a little tension on the tie. Maybe you can walk your hands a little closer together. Keeping your spine elongated. Notice where you feel stretched. See what you can let go. And exhaling. Gently release. Maybe give those shoulders a shake. We'll go to the other side. Up we go. Hold the elbow. If your mind's starting to wander, just notice where it's gone. And bring it back to your breath. Maybe we reach around. Find that tie. One side might be very different from the other. Keep your tailbone dropping down, your spine elongated. And just observe. And exhaling, gently release. And let that go. Do a couple more sun salutations. So come to the front of your mat. Inhaling, arms to the sky. Exhaling, gently dive forward. Inhale, halfway up. Exhaling, plant your hands. Take both feet back to the top of a push-up. Inhale, get long, and exhale, chaturanga. So maybe you float your knees down, maybe you come up onto the tops of your feet for up dog, and then exhaling, down dog. Couple breaths here. So we're going to come to pigeon pose. If you have trouble with your knees, you could always do this laying on your back. So inhale, bring that left leg to the sky. Exhale, draw the knee toward the nose, and then go ahead and plant it outside your left wrist. Right? So then what you want to do is walk the right foot back as much as you can so you make space to get that left shin a little bit more forward. So this is a big old hip stretch, right? So try and keep your body weight along the midline of your mat. Lift and get long before you fold over that front leg. So you might want to stay on your elbows. You might want to go all the way down, let your forehead rest on the mat. So like we talked about last week, we carry a lot of our emotional baggage in our hips. So just settle in and let it go. If you didn't practice with us last week, you can find that video on YouTube. It's also available, I believe, on the Roswell Presbyterian Church website and their virtual community. It's been amazing to see how faith communities have responded to this time. Really creative ways. Take another breath. And inhaling, gently release. On back up, grab hold of a block. So we might challenge ourselves to do a quad stretch here, right? So we're already here. Maybe you reach for that back foot. Again, it's a journey. Might not happen today. It's okay. Just a couple of breaths. And exhaling, gently release. We're going to take this left leg right back up to the sky. So curl your right toes under and lift the leg. Nice. Come back to downward facing dog. So notice the sensations in your body, and then inhale, look at your thumbs, bend your knees, walk your feet forward, and we'll finish the flow. So come halfway up. Exhaling, fold. Reverse your dive, arms to the sky. Exhale your hands to your heart. And we'll go to the other side. So inhaling, arms up. And exhaling, dive. Inhale, get long. Exhaling, bend the knees, plant the hands, right leg back in high lunge. And then the other one. So take your chaturanga, your version of a push-up, and your back bend. And then come right back to down dog. Lift your right leg to the sky. And as you exhale, pull it in, and you're going to plant it outside the right knee. Get that left leg out of the way so that you can adjust. Pull that shin forward a little. You'll feel it more in the back of your hip. So you can always tuck a block under this hip if it's helpful. Again, you can do this pose laying on your back. And before you fold forward, get a little longer. And then exhale, come on down and settle in. Try and keep your spine long. This is a great place to notice where your mind goes when you get distracted. And just bring yourself right back to your breath. And then perhaps recall your dedication and send some love that way. Deep exhales. And then on your inhale, Slowly raise your body up. Maybe taking a quad stretch, that back leg. Remember, no pain. Stretching is good. One more deep breath. And plant your hands and take that right leg way up to the sky. And then put it down. So this time we're going to just float our knees down and come down to the mat. So we'll take a Janu Shirsasana, so it's a stretch and a twist. You can keep your left leg stretched out and your right foot on the inner thigh. Hips are still facing the short edge of the mat, right? Get really, really tall, and as you exhale, reach toward that extended leg. So this is also, if your hamstrings are tight, you could take a tie and wrap it around. You could also sit on a block if your hamstrings are really tight, but you want to have your pelvis perpendicular to the floor. If you're curled under like this, it means you need to get up on a block or a chair or something. So we try and do this mostly with a straight spine, right? And then maybe you want to fold, holding the outside of that foot, twisting toward the extended leg. Another breath. And then on an inhale, pull your low belly in, transitioning slowly. I'm going to invite you to plant your right hand behind your hip. And as you inhale, just come onto that foot of the extended leg. Lift your chest and get long. Stretch. And exhaling, gently release. Good. So come back to the center of your mat. And take a Baddha Konasana, so bound angle, cobbler's pose, holding your feet. And then twist away from that right leg, just gently. It's kind of the opposite of Janu Shirsasana. Exhaling, gently release. And we'll go to the other side. So hips face the short edge of the mat. Get really, really long and tall, and then exhale, fold over that front leg. So if the collective reaction to our situation was to hoard toilet paper, that was our giant amygdala hijack. What's the appropriate response now? Perhaps it is to notice how much you need. And if you have a 1 month or 6 week supply, be sure to reach out to your neighbors and make sure that they are not in need. Thus operating from something bigger than ourselves, not just our amygdala reactions, but our collective well-being. Pull the low belly in, gently release. Because after all, this whole practice, maybe you want to plant your foot in your hand and stretch. It's about making ourselves better for others. We just happen to reap a lot of the benefits on the way. And exhaling, gently release. Good. So go ahead and roll yourself down onto the mat. You might want to have a blanket to tuck under your head if it's helpful. Plant your feet flat on the mat. Maybe you can touch your heels with your fingertips. On an inhale, lift your hips to the sky. for a bridge pose, just feeling that front body long and open. Check in with your feet. Make sure you're pushing into the big toe mound. One more deep inhale. Maybe you can go deeper than you thought. And then exhaling, gently release. Take your arms out to the side. Plant your feet a little wider than the edges of the mat and just windshield wiper your knees from side to side. One last gentle twist. Just noticing how your body feels. And then we're going to settle in for Shavasana. So that might mean keeping your knees bent if you need to protect your low back. Or you could take that blanket and tuck it under your knees if you want to stretch them out. Or you can stretch all the way out. So tuck your shoulder blades together. Bring your palms facing up if possible. Away from your body, toes just flop open. They say this is the hardest pose of all. Don't give up on it. Keep practicing. Let your body feel completely supported. Follow your breath. No more work till you hear my voice again. And slowly and gently bring your attention back to your body, moving your feet, your hands, maybe making fists with your hands, squeezing really tight. Hold on to those amygdala type reactions and then just let them go. Open your palms up. And then moving on your own, start to make the motions a little bit bigger, maybe elbows, knees. And when you're ready, you're going to gently roll to one side so that you can come on up to seated. I'll share with you part of devotional Richard Rohr wrote about the resurrection.
He says, but if you do choose to walk through the depths, even the depths of your own sin and mistakes, you will come out on the other side knowing you've been taken there by a source larger than yourself. Surely this is what it means to be saved. Being saved doesn't mean that you are better than anyone else or you'll be whisked off into heaven. It means you're allowed and accepted, and you've accepted and allowed the transformation here and now. Bring your hands to your heart center. Get really, really tall. One more time. Inhale. Exhaling, bow your head to your heart with a mental pat on the back, showing up on your mat so that you can be transformed into your best self and go out and serve others. The Spirit in me honors the Spirit in you. Namaste.